As Canada closes its borders, as you heard from Evan, to people from most of the world, the United States, the country that's an exemption to that rule, is conducting a tough battle with COVID-19, as you heard from Evan. And so far, it's not winning that fight. Here are the latest numbers on the impact of the pandemic there. More than 3,800 cases have been confirmed so far. At least 71 people have died. The cases span nearly every state, but it's New York, Washington State, and California that have been the hardest hit. U.S. President Donald Trump and his task force on COVID-19 updated Americans on the battle against the pandemic just last hour. Trump says he thinks the battle he's winning it, even though the death toll keeps rising. So reporters asked him about his family and what he's telling them about the crisis and how he's dealing with the fear many Americans have right now.
I think they are very scared. I think they see that we're doing a very professional job. We've been working with the governors and frankly, the mayor's local government at every level. We have FEMA totally involved. FEMA has been, usually we see FEMA for the hurricanes and the tornadoes. Now we have FEMA involved in this. They've been doing a fantastic job locally, working with people that they know because they work, like as an example, in California, in the state of Washington. They work with them a lot on other things, and they're very familiar, so they're working on it. What you can do, and all you can do, is professional, totally competent. We have the best people in the world. We have really the greatest experts in the world. And someday soon, hopefully it'll end and we'll be back to where it was. But this came up, it came up so suddenly. Look, you were surprised. We were all surprised. We heard about it. We heard about reports from China that something was happening, and all of a sudden we did make a good decision. We closed our borders to China very quickly, very rapidly. Otherwise, we'd be in a very, as Tony has said numerous times, we'd be in a very bad position, much worse than we would be right now. You look at what's happening in other countries. Italy's having a very hard time. But I think that what we do, and I've spoken actually with my son. He says, "How bad is this?" It's bad. It's bad. But we're going to be hopefully a best case, not a worst case, and that's what we're working for.
Let's bring in now the CBC's senior Washington editor, Lindsay Duncombe. You're working from your home. It's kind of like what many Americans are facing as well. So what did you think of Trump's message today?
It was a totally different message and different tone coming from the president. In these past news conferences, we've seen the president say that everything was okay. That was not what he said. In fact, he seemed to really grasp the reality of the situation, admitting that the United States could be headed for a recession. He also admitted that the situation is not under control, saying that his previous comments about being under control were more about the response. His tone was less defensive. He even went so far as to say that the media in reporting this crisis has largely been fair. And he seemed to grasp a realistic timeline of how long it could take for things to return to some kind of normal in the United States. Here's what he had to say about that.
People are talking about July, August, something like that. So it could be right in that period of time where it washes through. Other people don't like that term, but where it washes through.
This new tone came with additional guidelines for Americans, saying that Americans should stay at home if they have any kind of symptoms, that older people with underlying symptoms should stay at home, that people should gather in groups smaller than 10. That White House guidance goes further than what we had heard from the CDC, which said that people should gather in groups no larger than 50. There was nothing here that was a written in stone rule. We aren't seeing any official quarantines. There had been rumors and some reports of curfews being put in place. That didn't happen. No restrictions on internal flights being restricted or travel restrictions internally. No restrictions on the northern border, which is something that the president was asked of interest to Canada. Largely, those decisions are being left locally to the governor, but a strong message, governors, but a strong message from the White House that this should be taken seriously.
Yeah, strong message message from the White House, but there are some states that are criticizing the way the White House is handling the crisis. Take us through some of those criticisms.
Well, this has been building for a long time, and perhaps that's the reason why we saw this shift from the White House and from the president himself. Today, we saw Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York, say that this has been haphazard, that there's no central guidance here, that it really is up to the states to kind of make their own rules on this. So that was all before this switch of tone and switch of message from the president. What isn't clear is what difference this will make in terms of what the governors and leaders of cities are seeing in terms of the federal support they're receiving, and then also how people behave, because will the president coming out and being so clear on saying how serious this is make enough of a difference among many of his supporters, who some of whom may have had different impressions based on what he was saying previously.
Lindsay, thanks for the latest. That's CBC's senior Washington editor, Lindsay Duncombe.